Hey, well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Silver Phoenix Happy Hour. Look who's back. Hi, Ken.
How's it going?
Hmm, it's going great. How are you?
It feels good to be back. Actually,
Yeah.
it's been a little while. I'm sorry I wasn't available, but
No,
everything's
that's
back
all
to
right.
normal. I think.
I
You
think
know,
so. It's so good to see your face. What do you got drinking there today for our happy hour?
I have a glass of Merlot tonight. Actually,
Ooh, all right, all right. Mine is called the Bronx. That might
the
be a
Bronx.
little hint of to as to what we're doing today. But yeah, this is basically a perfect martini with orange juice. But it's in a margarita glass because I wanted to get the most bang for my buck here, right? But no, I'm super excited to. This show is going to be great. I am stoked. So when we're talking Bronx, what comes to mind first would be the Yankees, right? Right now with everything going on.
Yeah,
And the 3-2. Drove deep to left field. This could be it. See ya. He's done it. Number 61. He's been chasing history, and now he makes it. He and Roger Maris are tied with 61 home runs, the most anybody has ever hit in a single season in American League history.
I went to the game on Friday, and it was against the Red Sox last week, and it was amazing. It was you could just feel the excitement in the house because everybody was anticipating, is he going to hit it tonight? Is he, every time that he got up to bat, it was like very loud and rambunctious, and then all of a sudden, it was very quiet and hush on the crowd, and it was just cool. It was such a cool thing to kind of witness and be, even though it didn't happen, we did win the game, so that was good. And I
that's
know
great.
last night they did, or a couple nights ago, they did clinch the American League East. So that's exciting. We'll definitely see more in the playoffs and go from there. Are you a Yankees fan, by the way? I didn't ask.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as much into baseball as I am football, but
Okay.
if I had to pick, I am a Yankees fan.
All right. So then, since you mentioned football, I know who you're a fan of because I've been to a game with you before, and
Yes.
you're Giants. So they're what,
Yep.
2-1 now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm Eagles, and we're 3-0 right now. not to
I
not
don't
to
want to
rub
hear
it in at
about it.
all.
I don't need to hear that. I
No,
think
not to
Deadpool's even upset.
oh my goodness, not to rub it in. Well, actually, speaking of Deadpool, next week I have a little surprise for you. I'm not sure if you've seen kind of the Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds videos have been going around about Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, I've
Oh,
heard rumors. I
okay.
haven't seen anything yet. I didn't
Well,
see them
don't look.
yet.
Don't look
All
because I'm
right.
definitely going to surprise you with it.
All right.
Yeah,
Sounds
for
good.
sure. Well, so also, what else is Bronx related today? Um, I mean, we had an amazing week last week. I had Freddie Gano on a couple weeks ago, and he was kind enough.
Right.
Unfortunately, you missed that episode, but he said he'll come back and speak to you then. But
It's a fun episode though.
yes, yes, yes. But he had mentioned on air that he would introduce me to Chaz in the city after one of his workshops, and he was true to his word. So that's what's super exciting about this episode is it is an anniversary also too for A Bronx Tale on September 29th, 1993. The movie
Oh
came out.
wow.
Yeah, do you believe
I'm feeling
93?
I'm feeling old now.
I know. But what was so cool, I mean, Chaz couldn't have been nicer. I'm gonna put a picture up of us. It was just so kind. He's just such a sweet guy and magnanimous. It was amazing to meet him. I've enjoyed his work for so long and just admired him. But what was so cool too is that I happened to have met one of the stars of A Bronx Tale on Broadway, Rory Max Kaplan, and crazy enough, Chaz was like, "You should be on her show." And guess what? We got him tonight to be on the show, and I see that he just has joined. So actually, let's welcome Rory Max Kaplan. Hi, Rory.
Hey,
Hey,
how are you today?
happy to be here. Thanks for having me. How's it going?
Yeah, you're welcome. Really good, really
Good to
good.
see
So
you again, Blaze. It's good to see you again. Yeah.
I know, I know. I was going to say how it's just one of those random meetings where you're in the room and then you get an intro and then we took a picture together. I'll put that up. Um,
That's how it works. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, but so glad. So this is my co-host Ken. You didn't get to meet him, but
Delighted,
There
Ken,
he is.
man. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. I love what you guys do. Congrats on the on the show. I know you guys are like, what is it, over 10 episodes now? Like, which
Yeah. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
number 18, if I'm
oh my
correct.
gosh,
18 or
wow,
19. Yeah, we're getting up there. I think it's 18.
coming up on 20.
So
Nice.
I know. So we want to know all about you, first of all. So I know that you act, you sing, you're a musician too. You
Yeah.
record, recording artist. I
Right
know, right? So I'm seeing in the background there.
here, yeah.
So how did you get your start? What made you inspired to kind of start?
Sure. Well, I found my voice especially pretty kind of late in life. You know, I was more of a dancer growing up, sort of following in the footsteps of some people like, you know, Travolta or Patrick Swayze. I love those guys growing up, and yeah, I've always known that I wanted to be an actor at a young age, but because I came from such a music focused family, thanks to my dad, you know, I found my passion for music, which, you know, was originally expressed through movement. You know, that's just kind of how that sort of came into my life so quickly. But being on stage as a kid dancing, I found it really honed in my acting ability,
Right.
because I had to convey different emotions and tell stories through movement without speaking. You know, we're singing nowadays and stuff, but you know, and I had done a few musicals in like middle school, stuff like that, but they all knew that I could dance and stuff, so that's kind of where they sort of stuck me. And when I did my first real musical, I was around 19 years old, something like that. I had understudied the lead, which turned into a bit of a trend for a big part of my career. And when I had the chance to go on, I had a last minute rehearsal, and I remember the music director, you know, she hadn't really heard me sing for most of the run. So we're running through some of the lead guy stuff, and I'm just kind of slamming him out. And she goes, "Where did this voice come from? When did this happen?" Sort of thing. And I was like, I don't know. I just kind of chalked it up to repetitive singing and just doing a bunch of shows, and I guess it just helped form the muscle. So it just kind of like, you know, the trajectory of what I thought I could do or what I thought I was going to do sort of
Right.
shifted. So that's sort of the beginning of it all, I guess.
Right. Well, you mentioned your dad, Kip Kaplan, right? So I did my research.
I was gonna
So
say, there
tell
you
me,
go.
tell me a little bit about him and how, you know, what his background is.
I don't know if you have enough time. Of my that's my dude. That's my dude. So anybody that's kind of followed any of the music part of my artistic journey knows that he and I have been writing and producing together for, I mean, it's maybe 12 years now, 12,
Right.
maybe going on 13 years. He has such a, you know, his, like I said before, his background was in music production, singer songwriter way back in his day. And coming up in the recording studio scene in New York, circa like 1972, I believe, was when he first came to the city. And you know, as he progressed in New York, he became studio manager and helped build legendary studios like Right Track Studio, which isn't Right Track anymore, but I believe the studio still exists. And that was one of the biggest studios in the Northeast. And yeah, I mean, that was his whole deal. I mean, talk about somebody that could talk your ear off, and you can just get an endless amount of stories from, with people that he's worked with and people that, you know, he started with when he was in singer-songwriter days, who have all gone on to do, you know, just work with amazing legendary artists that we all know and love. And he's been a CEO. He's been the founder of AudioWorks Producers Group for film and television. So he does sound design for film and television, voiceover, dubbing, ADR, music, all that kind of stuff. He's had that company for over 2 decades now. So, and it's been serving him well, but so he still sticks very, very heavily into the studio life, which
Right.
I get to, you know, I get to, you know, be blessed with. He was doing a lot of music recording when I was a kid. So I came up in the New York recording scene too, just being a kid, doing my homework in the studio, which is a lie because I didn't do my homework. but but that's kind of in a nutshell. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It contains a lot of really, really special stories and some really cool history. But he and I, it has led for us to, I always say people, certain groups, certain musicians are blessed to have, fellow kids, when they're coming up and they start garage bands and they, who knows what they grow up to become.
Yeah.
I didn't quite have that so much growing up, but I got to eventually sort of have that in my old man. So it's a unique relationship. It's a unique partnership, and we make music that we just really love to make.
I love to see that chemistry that you're showing on your side about him, but I can only imagine when he saw you on Broadway for the first time. I can imagine that was a very special moment for him.
Well, yeah. Well, at some point maybe we'll have him on. He'll tell you all about that. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't speak to how he felt.
Well, yeah, let's actually talk about that. So tell us about your first, Broadway debut.
Oh man. Well, it's funny. Like, and if somebody ever asks me what it's like to be on Broadway, I can't help but think that. I always say Broadway starts with the audition. It's I think it's a true testament to anybody that's trying to put themselves on the Broadway stage, book those jobs, that's not it. It's not just the one entity. There's such a road that you have to take in order to get there. So
yeah,
anybody out there like auditioning for Broadway or really something like that on that sort of level, when you're in the audition room, say to yourself, I'm on Broadway. I'm on Broadway. I'm in this audition room. I'm with this creative team or in front of these producers. This is a taste of it. That audition room really kind of gives you that sort of first taste. I remember my first Broadway audition, and I made it down to the top 5. And even though I didn't get the job, I mean, it was like getting struck by lightning, because I just every day since then, it was just like, ooh, I was so close. Ooh. And I think,
can you tell what it was for?
It was a show that I think was being directed and choreographed by Kathleen Marshall. That's
okay.
All
right. I got you.
Which was, huge, amazing. I mean, she's in my opinion, a living legend. And so, I mean, just kind of being in that sort of environment and being there. I mean, and I'm in the top 5 with, Broadway veterans, even though it's my first time doing it. So, so that's that sort of feeling of like, being on Broadway. So I always have to, if I get asked that, I always remember that. I always want to say that. But I did make my Broadway debut with Jersey Boys, the Broadway company at the August Wilson Theater, which was just an absolutely amazing experience because, I mean, the book is just it's such a brilliant book. It's an incredible story. I don't think you'll ever get one single human being saying a bad thing about the music. It's timeless, it's legendary. And it was a pretty wild experience being, when I joined the company, at the time I was the youngest person in the company, joining a show while it was in its 9th year. So that was in and of itself just a very unique experience and super eye-opening. But the support was there. I'll say it turned what was already pretty thick skin into bulletproof.
Right.
That's kind of like sort of the long and the short of that.
Yeah.
So give us a little bit about actually coming in after an established group, because again, the show had been running for years at that point. How is it actually? Are you coming in with already established cast, or was it a whole new ensemble when you came in? How did that work?
Oh, for sure. I shared a dressing room with 2 of the 3 original cast members that were still on the show at the time. I was with Mark Latito and Peter Gregus. So it was a big moment of just like, when you walk in the room, when you walk on the stage, when you get backstage, when you walk in those stairs, it's a big, shut up and listen kind of moment, because even if not everyone else were original cast members, people were in it for 5 years up to that point, 7 years up to that point. I think maybe some people were in there for maybe 8 years up to that point. That's long enough. I mean, that's you're paying your dues and you're part of the history. of the show. So it was definitely, especially for a Broadway debut, I think it was the perfect show to make my Broadway debut, because it was like, man, I could do this. I can learn from these absolutely awesome people who are kick-ass performers, actors, singers, and of course, you know, making some lifelong friends. I was just hanging out with Dominic Scaglione Jr. This past weekend, and we were doing some singing together, and it's like he calls, I answer, and I always will, you know. So it's definitely that kind of experience.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great relationship there.
Yeah.
Oh, certainly. I mean, you know, I call him Big Bro. You know, he's certainly Big Bro, and there are some folks in there that are still they feel like family to me. And you know, once a Jersey boy, always a Jersey boy, and Jersey girl. And it's you know, no matter what company you've done it in, because you know it's been around for so long. You know, there have been multiple tours, there have been international companies, and you know, we all know each other through that grapevine. I mean that production, that show has employed a lot of really incredible actors and performers, and we all kind of get to sort of know each other in some form or fashion. We've all heard each other's names, and you know, I done other productions and have been like, hey, it's nice to finally put a face to the name. I've heard so much about you. That kind of deal. It's a cool situation.
Yeah, I love that. I actually saw that Phantom is closing after a super, super long run.
Yeah.
What show do you think is going to be the next one to follow in its footsteps of not of closing, but of the longest running? You know, what do you think? Do you have any?
I might be the wrong person to ask that. But you know,
Actually, Ken might answer that. Ken, what do you think? Because Ken's a big Broadway guy. So
there you go.
I mean, current standards. If you're talking about longevity, I mean, I think there's a possibility for contemporary theater. Hamilton might actually have that staying power.
I think for sure. I think a lot of those shows that are just, they're nailed down. Shows like Hamilton. Yeah. It's a show like Wicked. It's a Lion King. It's a you know, they will be around for good. There's a reason why when certain stars align and shows like that come about,
exactly,
they just find that winning formula. I mean, hey, I think it's too early for a Bronx Tale reunion, but I'll never turn it down.
Right. Well, I was just about to segue into that. So you also, your second Broadway show was A Bronx Tale. And it's funny because I watched the movie last night just because I knew we were doing this show today. And I never got to see the musical, unfortunately. I did see Jersey Boys, but I didn't get a chance to see A Bronx Tale. I was traveling and in California. I know. But actually am curious, since I did see the movie last night, and I'm sure you did a ton of research that was movie based as well as maybe the actual script for the musical.
Sure.
You know, were there a lot of differences between the two, or was it pretty true to form? Because I know it's based on Chaz Palminteri's one-man show. You know, so what's your thoughts on that after doing the research and stuff?
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure he's back out doing his one-man show again. So he might be touring with that. He might be doing it. It might be like limited dates or something like that. So
yeah.
And honestly, when we were in rehearsals for that, he got us all out to Atlantic City after a rehearsal one day. He was performing it. I remember it was at the Golden Nugget Casino, the giant ballroom or performance space that they had. And he was doing the one-man show there. And I will never forget that experience. It was absolutely outstanding. But to answer your question, yeah, you know, aside from music by Alan Menken and Glenn Slater, yeah, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of those similarities from the show to the movie, especially those legendary moments. The car scene with Sonny and Calogero, where he's doing the car test, teaching him the car test with Jane. I mean, that's in there. The bar scene, oh my God, with the bikers, the now yous can't leave. That is huge. It's in there, and that's like those are those moments where everyone's really, who was sitting in that audience. I mean, huge fans of the show, of the movie, and then obviously became the show, and they were looking for those moments, and when they were working on this book to really combine it with the music that they were writing for it. they were, you know, honestly, I could have even said to myself that I would have been skeptical of like, oh my gosh, like how do you turn this into a musical? But they really did such an amazing job of just capturing that world of the Bronx in the late 1960s. And yeah, Bob De Niro's part in the movie, what Richard Blake did, how he portrayed it on stage, and the relationship between him and young Calogero. I mean, you see those similarities that were in the movie, and you see those parts, you hear those liners, those that you really, that when he goes, when you now you can't leave, and then we start that biker fight, which I was in that biker fight. My God. I mean, the chaos the organized chaos that ensued. I mean, it was everything that you would have wanted it to be, being a fan of the movie.
Right.
And then throw in some just, you know, amazing music written by Alan Menken, lyrics by Glenn Slater. I mean, it was just, you know, Tommy Mottola produced it, so our sound was just outstanding. And I was due up number one also in the show. So I was blessed, and I during the time, I didn't know if it was a blessing or a curse that my voice started the show out in the cold, just, you know, picking an F chord out and starting the show with the doo-wop group that with, you know, these guys that are now lifetime friends of mine at a street lamp. But of course, looking back on it now, it's just, you know, it was an amazing blessing. It was an honor, you know, a privilege to be able to start that, because, you know, you hear the movie start with that. You hear those guys singing in the Bronx, that super reverb in the movie, or they're like out in the distance, like, you know, that's almost the call in the wild that was the Bronx sort of thing. So those little moments were captured really nicely. That, you know, fan of the movie, gonna love the show.
Yeah.
Well, being a fan of the movie, had you seen the movie before auditioning?
For sure.
So let me ask you, because I mean, I know that there's actors that in adapting certain things won't go to the original source material.
Sure.
Like, so what do you do to make it your own too after, you know, seeing the film, especially if you're a fan of it?
That's a good question, because honestly, I think to that a lot of the time of I want to make sure if they're doing a stage version of this, I don't want to familiarize myself too much with the movie before doing it, because I don't want to try and pull something. You definitely want to make something your own. And even though there was a one-man show version, even though there was the movie, you still feel like in this sort of this large ensemble, this large stage show with this original music for it, you want to treat it like it's your baby, and you want to be able to create this sort of thing. But Chaz, Bob, Jerry Zaks, like they really provided us with that kind of environment. You know, I know Bobby Conte Thornton, who was the original Calogero, who again, talk about the privilege of being able to understudy him. I mean, he worked his butt off to really make Calogero what he needed to portray Calogero as, with, you know, an incredible team to sort of lead him there, and they let us all there. I was lucky enough to, I also played one of Calogero's friends, and my character was Handsome Nick, and I'll never forget when there were a few names that were thrown around, because, you know, you're throughout rehearsals, they're working on the script, throughout previews, and we're doing it with an audience for the first time. They're making script changes. There's gonna be an added scene tomorrow, or a scene taken away tomorrow, and so we have to rehearse in the morning, figure out how we're gonna actually fix this transition or XYZ, stuff like that. And that included my character name. There were a few names, and I hate to be scratching on some of these names because they were absolutely hilarious. I know Nicky Zero was maybe one of them. He was so something, he amounted to nothing, or like, you know, just something, because, you know, we each had our fun names, and Slick had his own name because his hair was always slicked back, and Crazy Mario because you hear voices in his head and stuff like that. We all had our, you know, the reason why we had our little wise guy names, and Chaz was like, he really wanted to land a character name for me. And so finally, I remember he came up, he said, Handsome Nick. It's Handsome Nick. Of course it's Handsome Nick. Look at the guy. And I'm making myself turn red at the moment because I don't want to flatter myself. But I mean, that was what it is. And that was the story and of how that kind of came to be, which, gives you that little light on how they really made a family environment take form throughout that production. So they really gave us that chance to make it our own thing, to make it our own show, our own characters. And again, I'll always go back to the music. I mean, we were fortunate enough to be an original cast, original show with this original music, which never existed for Bronx Tale before. So that allowed us to kind of give this interpretation, certain scenes, different interpretations, and different allow different emotional capabilities to just be exercised. So
yeah, since this was a Bronx Tale is autobiographical, was there any pressure to perform or to really get things on the money, or did you just kind of make it your own? And what's the process there?
I think everyone would agree with me that it wasn't so much pressure. It was, we just really wanted to respect the story. It was just showing it as much respect as humanly possible, because this is Chaz's life story. This is his origin story. This is what really launched him, even at a young age as a kid. Like, this put him on the trajectory. So there wasn't a certain level of pressure. I mean, we actors put enough pressure on ourselves as it is. We want to make sure we go out there and perform. That I have to go out there and make sure that when I go, ooh, it's in key, because if it's not, the other guys come in and I screwed everything up. So there was enough pressure. They didn't really put pressure like that on us. And hopefully just now, I mean, I don't have a pitch pipe, but maybe I was on key. I don't know. We did enough performances where I feel like I can just pick an F chord out of thin air. But
it sounded good to me.
Yeah, it sounded good to me too.
I'll take it. They say 2 is a good audience. I'll take it. You guys are awesome. But it was certainly just us wanting to come forward with the utmost respect. And we had other leadership. I mean, we had Richard Blake. I got to work with Richard in Jersey Boys. I understudied him in Jersey Boys, and he coached me through auditions for Bronx Tale because he had done the Paper Mill production, and it was, and so that family aspect was just nailed in from the get go. We had Nick Cordero, the late incredible human being. Anybody who's known Nick, got to know Nick for minutes, felt like he was their best friend, because that's how he made people feel. And to be able to be one dressing room away from those 2 guys who shared dressing rooms, it was like, we were really well taken care of. And, the perspective was everything, and they supplied that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
Considering how much hard work I'm sure the play was, it sounded like you had a really cool play box to be in. It was
a juggernaut of a show to be put in. We were at the Long Acre Theater, and that's so well known for being a playhouse. Not huge. Some musicals have been in there, but it's such a small house. It's such an intimate theater for straight play work. And we didn't have a back wing. August Wilson was, I felt like a pretty intimate theater to do Jersey Boys in, but there was at least a wing where you could cross backstage and go to the other side of the stage. Longacre, we had to, if you had to go from right to left, you had to go underneath the stage, pass by the orchestra, and come up the other side and make sure that you're listening to what's going on stage at the same time. So it was just, like any solid show, it's a fine old machine, and Bronx was exactly that. We were a very, very fine old machine.
Very cool.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's actually segue to some of your music. I know that you have an EP called Full Circle.
Right.
I love that name too, Full Circles. I feel like life is so like that, full circle, in so many ways. But where did you get the inspiration for that title, and then the songs that are on it? So there's 7 songs on it?
That's
Or-
6 years. Yeah, something. I think it's 7.
Okay.
I think yeah. You know better than I do. It was, I mean, exactly what you're thinking about with the title. I mean, that was sort of the main intention, because Full Circle was inspired by the beginning works of what I was doing with my dad when we started doing recordings together. It was full circle with multiple meanings, as far as like father and son coming together. That area of full circle, like I don't think he knew, as I was growing up, I was becoming the artist that I was becoming, showing my interest in what I was showing in. I don't know if that he knew in a million years that I'd be, wanting to be a recording artist, wanting to sing, making music. I became a drummer. I became a guitar player. I stayed playing several other instruments, and I just dove headfirst into loving music. And then when I found my voice, just letting it soar. So we started working together, and there was just an incredible arsenal of music that he had way back in the day, through the maybe in the late 60s, all through the 70s, through the 80s, here and there in the 90s, that he did some really amazing recordings of, but a lot of them just kind of didn't see the light of day. And I grew up with a lot of the music, and I just sort of said to him, I was like, look, this is like, it's like you built a hot rod and it's just been sitting in the garage, but it's ready to just rev the engine and tear up the highway and just like go. Like, why are we just letting it sit there? And we had done a few just projects on our own, just kind of like feeling it out, getting to know how we should really work with each other. I mean, you can imagine father and son. I mean, there's a lot of this sometimes going on, and my perspective, my perceptive perception, his perception of certain things, but really understanding how each other vibe and getting to know each other also in totally different ways, really, really different ways. I really started to get to know who he is as an artist, but also like watching him sort of like push some of the dust off, grease some of the hinges, and just be like, oh man, and just kind of like reignite that flame inside of him that is his beautiful expression of art. I mean, I know I'm biased, but I can assure you it's some seriously awesome stuff. And then him just getting to see and learn who I am as far as the artist I want to be. So we dusted off a few of his old tunes and did some rearrangement, and I did my own sort of vocal interpretation of a lot of these songs. So the Full Circle comes from these songs getting to have sort of a second life. And otherwise in a world where they wouldn't be heard at all. So that was an incredible project, and we still continue certain things like that, because like I said, the arsenal was very vast. He throws some things at me. He's like, oh man, I dusted this one on, take a listen. And I'll be like, did you write this yesterday? He's like, nah, I wrote this back in 1978. This is fucking, I'm like, this is amazing. This is amazing stuff. And I get to finally, I get to bring him, certain things that I've written. And then he, we put the certain similar spin as far as establishing our sound, all the background vocals you hear on the stuff that we do. Mm-hmm. It's him singing. Some of it he and I, but a lot of it is him getting to put his voice in the background there. And he plays a lot of the keys in what we do. I play a lot of the guitar of what we do. I do a lot of different drum stuff that we've done. We've gotten to work with amazing artists that he worked with back in the day, who he sort of just y'all remember what a Rolodex is, right?
Yeah.
Pop that little thing, look at some phone numbers.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, so back in the day there was but it was a and he dusted it off, and we called just some legendary people. We had Don Perry, who's best known, I think, for playing with Jethro Tull for the past several decades, and Kazim Sultan, from bass player on Meat Love's Bat Outta Hell, who also was a solo artist who is wildly accomplished as a solo artist. Larry Saltzman, who's been playing with Paul Simon for a good long time. We did our first single we did a cover of The Boxer. Paul Simon's The Boxer, which is a totally reimagined version, very, very, very poppy rock sort of arrangement for it. And we called Mark Rivera, the world famous sax player, to come in and do some baritone for us. And getting to just kind of dive into that world see my dad in that light again, because I got glimpses of it when I was a kid. Man, I don't know anybody else quite with that certain experience, so I don't take it for granted for a second. It's I wouldn't change it for anything.
You know, the idea of full circle too in that concept doesn't just have to be the second life of the songs. It almost sounds like it's also the generational thing, story between a father and a son, which sounds really awesome too.
Yeah, that's exactly, you nailed it. I mean, that's exactly right, Ken. That's, that was sort of my instinct. And not for nothing, I'll give a shout out to Jake Atsaros, who's he did the album design work for me, where it was he literally took. I am not an artist. My wife is an artist. She's a brilliant painter, and I am not that. So I had a sketch idea of something that I was like, oh man, this looks like I don't know, a third grader with the IQ of a goat, sort of drew this. And I gave it to a friend of mine who he's a wonderfully gifted graphic designer by hobby, believe it or not, and managed to take the album cover. I'm a big vinyl fan. I know vinyl is a very niche thing now. It's but I love vinyl very much. I love that old school way of, they used to pop a record on, and you'd look at the album cover while you're listening to the music, and it really was like such a multi, different forms of art just sort of coming together and syncing up. So I kind of, in my idea for the album cover was like, something that people are going to want to look at.
So if you had to pick 5 of those vinyl albums, this is just totally off the cuff question, but if you had to pick just 5, which 5 would you have in your collection?
So I've got almost like 200 in my vinyl, which I think is a modest collection. I've seen folks that are real vinyl collectors, and I can't compete. But oh man, there's got to be a Beatles record, and this is already hard because I would put probably 5 Beatles records on there. But if I only picked one, it'd either be Abbey Road or the White Album. Or Sgt. Pepper.
Interesting.
What you doing to me? You see what you're doing to me?
I don't know. If it was me, it would be Hard Day's Night.
Okay, but that would be. I can't disagree with you. I can't disagree with you. Zeppelin 2 or Zeppelin
4?
2, Zeppelin 2 or maybe 4, but Zeppelin 2 I think it hits me pretty hard there. Oh man, how many is that? 2? I can't believe that's only 2. God. Wow. Carly Simon, she comes to mind. I'm not. Oh man, Crosby, Stills and Nash comes to mind, but I can't. It's hard for me to pick specific albums. Heart comes to mind. Dreamboat Annie comes to mind. Oh man, that might be 5. Is that good?
I was feeling Guns N' Roses for you, or like
I do have Appetite for Destruction.
I was gonna say,
of course I have Appetite for. I'm wearing an Aerosmith shirt right now. I mean, you're killing me. This is I'm done.
I was waiting to hear Bat Out of Hell 1 on,
It's so funny when you mentioned Bat Out of Hell and Meatloaf. I was actually thinking that I would have loved to have seen you in that musical. I did go to that a couple years back, and I could see you in that just from hearing your voice. And
one of the most legendary produced albums. I mean, Todd Rundgren, I believe, produced that album, and just it's a masterclass in production work for sure.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. Jim Steinman was just an incredibly brilliant songwriter, and I was upset hearing when he passed. But I mean, just the amount of work he did was ridiculous.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, we're getting ready to sort of wrap up here, but we always have one question that we ask all of our guests, and that is, if you could give one piece of advice to someone that's just starting out, maybe, or maybe feeling a little bit stuck, what advice would you give them?
Oh man, feeling stuck. We all know too well the feeling of being stuck. Anytime I've ever done, I'll tell you this. Anytime I've ever done a master class, I've gotten to teach any young individuals, even just kids that are really thinking having the admiration for performing arts in any sort of capacity. I always tell them, I say, the dream We all know the dream. The dream is very, very real. And you always have to keep that dream alive in your heart, no matter what it is. But you have to be willing to release control of how that dream becomes a reality. You have to. We forget, no matter what age, sometimes the older we get, the worse it is, to allow our perspectives to grow. We get so caught up trying to force our dreams to happen the way we want them to, that we get tunnel visioned and we miss out on opportunities that present themselves that would have probably gotten us to where we want to be. We have to always be willing to learn, and from people we love and from people we just meet, and like everywhere in between. Following our gut is one thing, and it's a very important thing, but don't mistake your gut with arrogance. We do not know everything. And the more we're willing to learn, the broader our perspective will grow. So our younger selves will be very, very thankful, because that dream means more than anything. I'm working on a song right now it's almost done, and I can't wait to announce the release. There's a release of a few songs that I've got coming out. That, man, we're throughout the pandemic, and I'm coming up on a year from a very intense shoulder surgery, which kept me out of work for such a long time. But I wanted to keep going, and you have to do that. You can't let everything just take you down. So even if you feel like you're writing crap, or you're creating crap, or you feel like a piece of crap, it doesn't matter. I mean, Chad says it himself. If you feel that pain, that's the thing you have to get up and work through. That's the pain. Feeling that pain means you're on the right track, because the second I don't want to do it means you got to get up and go. But the song I'm working on right now, it's called, it's almost done. I can't wait to, like I said, announce when it's coming out. It's called Take the Roses. And it's sort of about that. I mean, the beginning verse it talks about, we all know that feeling when you're a kid and you're laying in bed and your imagination's just going crazy about what you want to continue to do, what you want to do, where you want to see yourself go. That's the dream that's really important. But it's really important to let your perspective grow. That's what's going to really let the dream come true. If you can get that done, if you can get that understanding, which is going to be really hard to do at a young age, you'll be miles ahead of everyone. Miles.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much. Do you have anything that you want to promote, meaning upcoming? Do you have any gigs? Do you have any? I know you have the one song or an album coming out, or a few songs. Anything else?
There's a few. So I've been lucky enough to be working on some really awesome voiceover work at the moment, both directing and acting. And I'm working on a show right now, an animation called Medio Heroes, which is just an absolutely phenomenal kids animation that is getting a lot of really cool international buzz. And we did a PBS airing the last Earth Day, which is kind of what it's about. These cartoon kids that have these amazing superpowers that are all different elements of the earth, and they use those to combat climate change and making the world and the environment a better place. So I know that's definitely going on, which is a lot of fun. But yeah, right now it's just been right now it's been the music, and I'm very, very excited. Just head up the Instagram and other social media to check out those release dates coming out. There's 3 songs, and it might be an EP, it might be single after single. I don't know how I'm going to release them yet, but they're coming out soon, and y'all ain't ready. They're pretty rocking. They're pretty awesome, and
I can't wait.
Yeah,
That's going to be awesome. I have to ask one other question, because my cousin will kill me if I don't. Pokemon. I saw that you did some voiceover for Pokemon. Tell us about that.
It was all the smiles on the screen right now explain exactly what that was like. it was amazing. It was amazing playing. I played Cameron in Pokemon, and honestly, at this point, I only remember exactly what number season, because there are so many seasons. It's like
there's a lot.
The longest running anything in any history of whatever. It's just talk about a juggernaut of a show. I mean, I think that the history behind that show is absolutely incredible. But playing Cameron was was an amazingly fun time, and what a hilarious character. And I got to do some seriously cool, challenges and the character forming and whatnot. He hasn't come back yet, and I hear some super fans here and there reaching out saying, when is Cameron gonna come back? And I'm like, every question, the answer is always, I don't know, but I hope it's soon, because that dude was a lot of fun and so silly, and kind of let me just let my character voice off the leash and just go crazy. So that was a lot of fun. So you're good.
You know what? I can only hope. I was real quick. I can only hope that if you do come back, they also throw something in there to actually make you a new Pokemon character, so we can actually get those little voice things going too, and how you would interpret one of those creatures.
Oh my gosh, I don't even understand. I don't know how they come up with that, but it's brilliant and it's amazing. Was that Blaze? Did you say that was your cousin or?
Yeah, my cousin was. I was just telling him about who was going to be on the show tonight, and then I was kind of going through your credits, and he lit up when I said Pokemon, so that's why.
Well, I loved your cousin, and any Pokemon cards.
Hi, Anders.
Yeah. Sure.
Well, thank you so much again. It's been a pleasure having you on the show today. And everybody, it's Rory Max Kaplan is the Instagram. And then on some of our social medias, we'll actually put your links, because since we can't put it on here, they can't click on it. But we'll put up your social medias as well. And Apple, where they can hear some of your music. And actually, I will do the ticker again for the Full Circle available on all streaming services. So once again, it was so good seeing you again, and thank you so much for everything. And we'll be following you. I have a feeling we're going to see you in lots of things coming up. So
that means a lot, Blaze. I mean, It was a pleasure being here. It was a pleasure talking to you guys. Ken, it was really nice to meet you too. And
same here.
I look forward to being back.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Bye, take
Thank
care.
you very much. Have a great night.
Thanks. See ya.
Bye.
All right.
Oh wow. I mean, come on, RMK now at this point. I wanted to just call him that during the episode, but yeah. Oh, that's so awesome. He was so great.
Yeah, you know what? It's so funny. There's always this like connection that you feel when you meet somebody, and you just know that it's going to be a great interview, and also just a great person. I could, see us definitely being friends and hanging out. So very, very
I'm
cool.
upset.
I'll
I'm
follow him.
upset we didn't. Yeah, I'm upset we didn't get to go into his voiceover stuff earlier, because but ultimately I could probably have done like a full hour of just talking about voiceover work with him. And his dad is like completely into directing voiceover as well. So again, full circle.
Yes, 100%. Well, it's funny, talking about full circle. It's time maybe to do a little in the kitchen with Nicole. Full circle to back to the Bronx. I think we're going. So, so let's roll that clip.
All right.
What's up, Blaze? One, I am super jealous that you went to Chaz Palminteri's restaurant. That pasta dish looked so banging with all that delicious seafood. Now, we know there is no shame in that pasta loving game. And if you want to go out and enjoy it, absolutely. We've talked about that before, eating in an Italian restaurant. But I get a lot of questions. Can I enjoy pasta at home? And yes, the answer is yes. What we have to keep in mind is, what does a portion look like? So for example, that box of pasta, which is now like, by the way, 12 ounces and not 16, called shrinkflation. They're taking servings away from us. So this box is meant to be 6 servings. So when we think about it, if we're just preparing a dish for 2 people, we want to maybe cook like half of this box, so we have 2 generous servings and enough for a serving of leftover. So keep that in mind. One, you don't have to cook the whole box. There's no law that says you better cook this all at once. It'll keep really well. You can keep leftover pasta either in a Ziploc or one of those OXO beautiful containers for freshness. So that's one. You don't have to cook the whole box. 2, you can pre-portion leftovers if you are cooking the whole box. So be smart about utilizing it. Be smart about enjoying it the next day. Think about pasta salad in the days ahead. Think about maybe reheating pasta and throwing it into a frittata or something of that nature. So yes, go ahead, enjoy pasta. Let's be smart about it. Blaze, back to you.
Ooh, she just said my name, so you must be in
I
trouble with
know.
Nicole.
I know where I rank apparently now.
You miss a couple weeks and see what
I'll say,
happens.
I'll just say, you take a couple weeks off.
Yep, love it. No.
I get forgetting all about. It's okay. I still love her. It's all right.
Well, we love Nicole. And she mentioned actually Chaz's restaurant, and that's actually where I got the idea for my segment in Beachcombing with Blaze. So why don't we go ahead and just roll that clip as well?
Sure.
Today's episode is in honor of a dish I saw on the menu at Chaz Palminteri's Italian restaurant called a Bronx Tale. So let's talk lobster. The American lobster lives off the coast, from Canada to North Carolina. This crustacean can live 60 years or more. They call rocky areas home because they love places where they can easily hide. They have 10 legs, a tail, and 2 claws. The large claw is called the crusher. The smaller one is called the pincher or ripper claw, which tears food apart. What color comes to mind when you think of a lobster? Most would say red, but that's actually the color when they're cooked. Most lobsters are brown or greenish, which helps them with camouflage. They have 2 stomachs. One's in their head. It also contains their teeth and grinds the food. The other one is behind it, which digests. They eat things like clams, crabs, starfish, marine worms, other fish, and snails. Once a lobster gets too big for its shell, it will shed and grow a new one. This is called molting. You may wonder why we don't see any carcasses washed up. Well, that's because they eat their own shell too, which is filled with calcium and aids in the hardening of their new one. Talk about not leaving a footprint. Super cool. Lobsters were once considered the poor man's chicken. My, how things have changed. Well, until next time, explore, learn, love the adventure.
All right. So is it disturbing that even though I just got a lesson on lobster, I really want some with some drawn butter or maybe a lobster roll?
Listen, this show is not. It's the only. All right, I will say this. There's only one animal that's in the sea that is edible that I will not eat anymore after watching a documentary, and that is the octopus, because I saw my
Oh,
octopus
yeah.
teacher and I
Yes.
became friends with an octopus at a Long Island aquarium. And ever since then, I cannot eat an octopus. So when a lobster wants to, befriend me, then maybe I'll reconsider my lobster eating
Well,
stuff.
I'm going to put you on the spot though. So
Yeah.
just octopus or will you do calamari?
Oh, I'll do calamari. Squid's completely
Okay,
different.
because I'm all right. I'm just checking. All right,
Oh yeah.
they are
No, no.
similar. So
No.
okay,
Totally different. Octopus,
no
three
us.
hearts, three hearts, a bunch of brains, no. It's and just yeah, so
No
smart.
scungili. Okay.
No, no octopus, but yes. So anyway, well, I think that's going to about wrap it up for us today. It was so fun talking about the Bronx.
Yeah.
Go Yankees, go Aaron Judge. We'll see
Yes.
what happens. Maybe the next episode that we have, we'll be announcing that he surpassed it. We'll see what happens. But super excited. Anytime there's history involved, it's really cool. Super thank you to Rory Max Kaplan. I feel like his dad was here with us too, so to Kip Kaplan as
Yeah.
well,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah, and to Chaz Palminteri for making the intro in the first place. So,
Yes.
and Freddie
So
Gatto as well. Yes,
thank you,
here we go.
Chaz. Thank you to everybody. What a great show. Thank you, Blaze.
You're welcome. I'll see you next week, buddy. Bye.
Take care.